Filtering in. I see we've got people starting to join us. So thank you all so much for joining us for another Power to Fly Chat and Learn virtual event. My name is Meg Alexander. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am a 39, oh no, 40. I turned 40. I'm a 40-year-old white woman with pink and purple hair, and I'm wearing black glasses. All right, now today we are going to be talking about how to run discovery calls that actually convert. And I'm really excited to be introducing you to some fabulous people from Zillow. But before we do that, real quick, I just want to flash our code of conduct up on the screen in front of you. It is a big, scary wall of legalese, but what it boils down to is don't be a jerk, okay? As long as we come from a place of kindness and respect, it's pretty hard to go wrong from there. But if you have any questions about this, you want some further details, you can always DM me in the chat, or you can always write into our help desk inbox. That email that email address is hi@powertofly.com. All right, now the other thing I want to highlight here, just in case maybe today is your first event with Power to Fly, and in that case, hey, welcome. We're so happy to meet you. Now, the love is no less real for my frequent flyers. So even if you've joined us for a previous event, we are still so happy to have you spending time with Power to Fly and Zillow this morning. The biggest thing to know about these events is that we are recording. And what that means for all of you is you don't have to take notes. You can sit back, relax, enjoy the conversation that I'm about to have with some fabulous people from Zillow, and not worry if you missed a link that was shared or a resource that was posted. So no worries there. What's going to happen is Power to Fly is going to email everybody, usually within about 4 to 5 business days, and that email is going to have a link to where you can rewatch this recording when we post it live on powertofly.com. You can also check out our YouTube channel. We'll be sharing links for this in the chat thread as we go. There's a great selection of kind of our best of in the YouTube channel. But the full mother load, all of our free resources live on powertofly.com. So I very much recommend that you check that out. Now, we want to hear from all of you, so please feel free to get active and hopping in that chat. In fact, I really want to know where our global audience spreads today. So please feel free to dive into that chat and let us know where you're joining us from. I'm coming to you from Toledo, Ohio. This is land that belonged to the Fox, Kickapoo, and Potawatomi tribes in my area. So if you would like to share, please feel free to let us know where you're joining us from and whose land you're on. Now, if you do have any questions that you would like me to raise, but you want to be kept anonymous, you can always send in questions in the group chat if you don't want to be anonymous. But if you do, you can DM them to me directly. Like I said, you can find my name, Meg Alexander, in the drop down on your screen. Let's see here. Oh my gosh, y'all, we got people joining us from New York. Thank you, Greg. Christian is coming to us from Atlanta, Georgia. Meredith also in Atlanta. Elmer in Illinois. Beth is in NYC. Go Knicks, Beth. Vanita's coming in from London. Brooke in Denver. Monica in Montreal. Greg's home of the world champions, New York Knicks. Love to see it. Thomas is in Ferndale, Michigan. Hi, Thomas. I know where that is. Oh, I love this. Thanks so much for joining us, y'all. We really appreciate it today. All right, now, before we dive into our speakers, I just want to real quick introduce you to Zillow. Now, obviously, probably the name recognition is a thing for Zillow, so you probably have all heard of them before. But at Zillow, they are building what is next. They want smarter tools, simpler experiences, and a housing journey designed to meet people where they are. Now, their teams are driving innovation across every part of the real estate process, fueled by bold ideas and a deep understanding of how people move. Now, at Zillow, flexibility isn't a perk, it's how they work. Cloud HQ is their distributed first model built on trust, clear systems, and the belief that you can do great work from wherever you are. It's not about where you work, it's about moving forward together. Zillow prioritizes their team members' well-being as well as their people, their culture, their products, and partners. Now, I'm very excited to introduce you to a member of Zillow's fabulous team today. But before I do, I just want to direct your attention to this little QR code that's at the bottom of the screen. Following that link is going to take you to Zillow's company page on powertofly.com. There's some great things for you there, and we'll share towards the end of today's event a little bit more about what this page can do for you. But the big thing to know is this is the HQ center. If you want to know what Zillow has going on with Power to Fly, if you want to see new roles they've posted, if you want to join in on upcoming events like this, so definitely check out Zillow's page on powertofly.com. All right, now I'm very excited to welcome the first panelist for Zillow's event today. We have Yuleen Gargano. Now, Yulene is a senior manager in strategic GNR agent software and advertising. There, she leads at the intersection of sales strategy, customer insight, and product value. Now, Yulene has a strong track record of building and leading high-performing teams, driving meaningful results, and shaping programs that scale across the organization. Yulene has been recognized for her expertise in discovery and has helped redefine how teams approach customer conversations by focusing on curiosity, precision, and deeper problem solving. Yulene, I'm so happy to welcome you to the stage today. What else should our audience know about you before we dive in more on Zillow?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Meg, for the introduction. I'm also a mom of three teenagers. So when we get to the part of this conversation where we talk about how this can apply to life outside of work as well, a lot of experience there.
Three teenagers. So you have just acres of time at your hands,
Yeah,
just, yeah,
exactly.
clearly. And I'm sure a house full of people that very much respect you and never roll their eyes in your direction. So yeah,
Exactly.
I think we're level set here. Yeah. All right. Now, joining Yulian up on stage, we are also going to have joining Brooke Cochran. Now, Brooke is a former D1 volleyball player. What's up, D1 Sports? Turned sales leader, and her career has been shaped by adaptability and a passion for developing others. Now, she began as a fifth grade teacher and volleyball coach before pivoting to sales after her husband joined the U.S. Marines. That same resilience carried her into tech sales in Denver, where a connection led her to Zillow. Now, Brooke rose from account executive to senior sales manager for enterprise rentals through Zillow's leadership development program, leading high performing teams and guiding members into enterprise and leadership roles along the way. Brooke, welcome to the stage. We're so happy to have you. What else should our audience members know about you?
Thank you, Meg. I'll go the same route. I'm a mom of three as well, but very different ages. I have a 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and 2-year-old, and it's our 4-year-old's birthday today. So we have a big celebration day around here. Yeah. Um, so I'm
Okay,
excited to spend
so
time with you all.
I'm a cake decorator in my not this job. So what's the birthday cake
Dang
theme
it.
for the birthday kid?
Well, next year I'll be calling you. I'm going nothing bundt cakes because they just never miss.
They don't.
But
They're
next year,
delicious.
Meg, you're up. You're up.
Hit your girl up. I can do grocery store cakes with the best of them, man. It's my favorite. All right. No, thank you so much for that. Okay. Now we have a ton of questions that we want to get through, obviously. So let me get back into my screen share. There we go. There we go. All right. So we have a bunch of stuff we wanted to go through first, but obviously, discovery, we're talking sales calls here. But I want to talk about what discovery means for each of you in your specific roles. Yulene, would you like to start us?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of wanted to answer this question by sharing how I've evolved and how I've looked at discovery. Really, I think at the beginning it was like information gathering and then leading to a pitch. And what I found in my experience and just like in my getting better at sales and really trying to kind of refine these skills here at Zillow is that it's really about understanding the problem and creating clarity around that. Once we have identified the real root cause of the problem, that's really when solutioning becomes really easy and like a faster path to that for the consumer.
Okay. Brooke, how about you? Do you follow the same definition? Do you have extra
Yeah.
layers that you add to that?
Yeah, I would say super similar in terms of sales process. So coming from the lens of leadership in my current role, though, I would say what's most critical is discovery comes into play about deeply understanding the people that are on my team and how to get the most out of them. So coming and thinking back to your most favorite teacher that got the most out of you, maybe the year you grew the most or had the best memories, it's likely because they understood the way that you learn. They understand what's important to you. They understand the things that are like your ick that don't work. And they were able to differentiate how they showed up for you. So for me as a leader, that's why discovery is so important. I can understand the whole person first, the whole professional, and how to take them to the next level in both of those areas. And then from a sales pro perspective, it's like, I hate to burst everyone's bubble. It's kind of the same thing, but more business driven. How can I get the most out of this person and take their business to the next level. So I
Mhm.
think discovery is I have to come in with a deep knowledge of the industry, their business, and ask the right questions so that I can take them and their business to the next level.
I like this. I like this a lot. Um, do we, when we're talking about, all right, sorry. So when we're talking about sales, we're talking about a lot of different areas. How do you think this differs when it comes to outside sales?
Tell me what you
Meaning, I
mean
see.
when you say like outside of
Um,
just a sales conversation.
I believe so. Yeah, it's not just always about the bottom line, right?
Yeah, Yulene, you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that um, starting and leading with curiosity is really kind of the foundation, right? So whether it's from before you've met the person, right? Like, what are you curious about? What do you want to know about them leading up to that? And during the conversation as well, right? So I know we're going to talk a lot about active listening today, but like I think staying curious, really listening to the answers that people are giving you, that's going to move the needle forward in any of these kinds of conversations.
Yeah, and I would say for me, the the level of connection or the strength of connection you have with anyone, whether it be in business, outside of sales, in sales, it's only as strong as your level of understanding for that person. And that comes through the quality of questions we continue to ask. And going back to curiosity, that's why curiosity is so important. The more curious you can stay, it will deepen your level of understanding and connection to that person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you also hit the nail on the head, right? It's not just about the prep work and the research. It's about asking the right questions. And Yulene, you said the same thing, like ask the questions, but make sure you're listening to the answers. A lot of times it can feel, from what I remember from being in sales very briefly many moons ago, it can feel very transactional or it can feel very like, I need to info dump onto you so that you
Mm.
know that I have done my research, but then it doesn't reciprocate a lot. So I think that that is really important. Okay, let's talk about preparation. If you are preparing, you're trying to do this discovery and you're in those first initial phases, what are you trying to learn that you don't think the person is just going to volunteer? Because a lot of times, we say like ask the right questions. So what does that prep work go towards?
Mm. Yeah, I'll say I thought about this question a lot, and kind of broke it down into three buckets is if these resources are available to you, which most should be given the internet. First I would say is like understanding their personality. How do they communicate? So here at Zillow, we have access to listening to prior calls, which can be extraordinarily helpful. So you can hear what's their communication style. Are they straight to business? Do they want to talk about their kids and their dogs? Do they have kids and dogs? Maybe you can pick up on that and immediately jump right in. So I think it's important to understand the person. Did they check out their LinkedIn? Did they recently get promoted? Did they work at a company formerly that you're familiar with? So understanding the person. And then next, I would say is their perspective. What is their perspective on Zillow or the company that you're at? Are there potential problems that you need to address? What is their perspective of the market? Are they located in an area that's extremely competitive and you need to be ready to speak to that? And then I would say finally is pain points. So trying to uncover what in their business right now is taking up time where you could provide more efficiency. And so none of this is necessarily about you and your product, but it ultimately should lead to your solution. So for example, in rentals, this might look like I have a call with Meg, the decision maker leading up to that call, I would likely call a lot of the on-site team members that are a few levels below Meg and ask, where are you spending your most time today? And try to uncover those lack of efficiencies within their business, so that when I talk to Meg, I can one bring up all the amazing people on her team and build a lot of credibility, and then ultimately lead to a solution to bring more efficiency to the business. Yulene, what did I
Yeah.
miss? What do you think?
I love the way you broke it down into those three main ideas. Absolutely. I think That's the great question is what did we miss? And that's often what I'm looking for when I start prepping for a call, right? So we have all this great information, but what information am I missing, right, about this person and their perspective or their pain points? And that's kind of what I try to prepare in terms of questions for that person. And to kind of go into like how we prepare, I'll use an analogy. Obviously, the World Cup's going on right now and I'm not like a soccer fan like year round. But I got curious. And so I'm looking on Instagram, I'm looking at the different players and the different teams. I'm learning again their personalities, what's stressing them out about traveling to the US or Mexico or Canada. It's that same framework that we work through in the sales world, right? Get on their social media, get on their web pages. What do they say about themselves? And then to Brooke's other point about talking to resources, what are other people saying about them and their business? I
Mm.
think that, the way you would chase down anything in your personal life that you're curious about, that's how you're going to chase down the person you're speaking with on a sales call.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm coming from, granted, I've lived like 8 different careers at this point. So at one point, I was paralegal. And one of the things that they teach you first off is that not everything that is discoverable is admissible in court. Okay. So I want to know when you are in your discovery phase and you are trying to get all of the information, how do you know when you're getting too much information or you are, kind of in the facts gathering and you are creating more noise than you are creating more data for yourself? Is there a way to know this? Is this something that comes with experience and, just doing a lot of discovery phases? Or how did this work for you? Yulene, how about you? When you first started, what what differences in what you look at from then to now, I should say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely understand your question, Meg, and that sometimes we can share that we've gone too far down that rabbit hole, right, of pre-call planning. And I saw one of the questions in the chat is about what we are selling and who we're selling to. So typically we're selling advertising to an advertising platform, for real estate agents here at Zillow. So both to serve their buy side and their listing side of the business. And I would say, Mike, that the way I handle it now is I'll mention something really briefly, like, hey, saw you have an upcoming event in Austin at the end of the month, right? Who's invited? Okay, and then I'll kind of let them share a little bit with me, and then I'll be listening to their answers so that I can add a layering question. Oh, really great. You're going to invite everyone from your office. What are you hoping to get from the event? Right. And then asking another layering question. That way they're sharing the information and I can pull from that to continue my layering questions instead of just upfront telling them everything I know.
I
Yeah, I
fully
think that's
agree.
good. Yeah.
That's yeah, I was going to say it's such a good point. And I think it's all aligning back to like, what is the one thing I ask my sales pros this all the time is like, what's the one thing you're hoping to achieve on this call? And the goal is always to get them talking more than you are. And any of the preparation you do is so that you're on your toes the entire call. Nothing they bring up should necessarily surprise you or knock you back. There might be questions where you ask for clarification, but all of it is done with an intent to come off as an expert and bring value. And then I was going to go back to the point of rentals specifically. Yulene and I we're a little bit different in our roles of what we do here at Zillow. So on the rental side, we sell marketing to typically we're talking to directors of marketing, COOs, who own portfolios of apartment buildings. And so we're trying to help them. Our goal is to connect them with a renter and fill their vacant units within their apartment building.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Very much appreciated.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think is something that you used to do when you were gathering info that you're not going to do anymore? Anything like it could be technology changes, it could be just a simple like I decided I don't need to know what color their underpants were 6 weeks ago, so I gave up on learning that. Brooke, you laugh, okay? I have seen information that I never wanted to know about people.
Oh, yeah, that's bold. That's bold, and I'd be curious to know more there. It's not really a technology thing, but I have reflected a lot on discovery after this, and honestly, it's my favorite part of the sales process, and it's shifted a lot. The thing that is gone, like bury it, people, is going into calls and saying like, What's top of mind for you? What's the state of the union? What's keeping you up at night? Like, bury it, because ultimately you lose all control when you ask those questions of the outcome. You are relying on them to identify problems in their business, and people don't really like to do that. So I would say it's amazing open-ended questions. I'll get to that later, and why that's so critical. But those types of questions and coming in with someone with decision-making power and asking them to spend their time educating you on their business when you could have done due diligence up front and done some research is, in this day and age, like a little bit disrespectful of their time. Um, so you do need to come in with a perspective. And so those questions for me are just long gone.
So anything that is find outable in a basic Google search, you should already know, right? Now,
100%.
when you're talking about already knowing, is this like a memorization kind of thing? Do you have notes in front of you? I am curious because like little things would absolutely stick and I would never be able to forget them. But then the things that I want to might not. Do y'all do like scripts and stuff? What is it? What are you preparing?
Great question. I actually try to avoid memorizing every single detail,
Yeah.
and also specifically about their successes. So I remember as a sales exec, I started as a sales exec maybe 4 years ago now. I'd be like, okay, I need to memorize their number of transactions, their average home value, like all these things, like specifically about them. So I understand, what a great business they're running. And now it's so much more about like asking those why questions. Hey, it's a tough market right now in Greensboro. Like, how are you seeing your success? Right. And so, like, the numbers inform oftentimes the questions that I'm asking, but what I'm really asking is for them to self-evaluate and tell me their story. I would say marketing loves a good script. And so we have lots, and I think that's good guidance early on in your career. But I think what's most important is, again, the listening after you ask your first scripted question. What I tend to find is people give answers in multiple parts. And if you can kind of go back
Mm,
and be like, ooh, like, tell me more about this, right? And that tends to be where the most interesting follow-up questions come from.
yes.
I like that. All right. Now, when you're ready to go into your first call, you are already thinking right in advance of what you're going to ask them, what they hope to accomplish on that call. Do you go into the question or go into the call with like, okay, I need to find these things out and like have a set list of questions you want answered?
I have a rough idea. And to go back, I still like to handwrite. And I believe there's
Same.
research. I haven't looked it up in a while, but I think there is research to try and the like handwriting and what that does for your memory. I also think too, as like former athlete, or if you are a dancer or actor, is practicing, like sitting in front of the mirror and acting like you are talking to your prospect, your client, Meg, and asking the questions. And if you do have a script or a talk track, like Yulene was referring to, make it you. Like it's not like you're memorizing it, but you do need to practice. Um, and then I forget your question now, Meg. Can you repeat?
Of course. If you are you go in and you're going to ask them like what's a problem we can solve today,
Mm,
but you also are going in assuming like knowing that there are questions you don't have answers to yet because you've done your discovery, you've done your diligence, but there's always things you don't know. Are there any questions that you would not ask that person directly, even though you weren't able to find it out?
would not ask them directly. I can't really think of anything I wouldn't ask. Like I said, I want to go back to, I have that framework of what do I want to accomplish on this call, and it's one or two things. It cannot be too many things. That's where you get lost and you stay
Yeah.
very surface level. You want to go as deep as possible in your understanding. I think there are key hitting points that you do need to understand of like, um, what goals are they driving towards? How do they measure success? Um, what is the biggest pain point in their business right now? You might have a perception of what that is, but it's actually like not what's top of mind for them. Maybe they have some other large initiative going on. And so a lot of discovery, you do have to be nimble in the moment. And I think we'll dive deeper into this, but for me in discovery, no ego, amigo. You have to ask. I think it's so important, and I hear and coach in so many calls where someone will bring up, what could I even say? Let's say they bring up some software that they use, and the sales pro will move on. And I'm like, hey, I don't know what that is. Do you? Can you tell me
They
about
just
it? They're
gave
like,
you a great opening to ask questions. Yeah.
oh, I don't know what that is. I'm like, well, you didn't ask. So I think it's no ego, amigo. And that can come in, you can really be very empathetic, super curious by saying, like, hey, you mentioned this software. Can you tell me more about that? I'm not super familiar. And that has opened up a lot of windows of great conversation.
Okay.
Yulene, anything you don't ask?
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting question. And I think that it ties to something. I would ask anything on a call, pretty much, by the way. But I do think it requires priming, right? So something we talk about in sales a lot is priming the question, right? Like, how are you getting permission to ask this question? And in sales, a lot of times it's about budget, which means it's about what they're already spending. And those are quite nosy questions, right?
Mm,
But I lead with vulnerability there, right? And I think that's something also that's really important in sales, both as a leader and on the phones, right? So if I'm willing to kind of like be vulnerable with my process or what's going on internally, then it oftentimes allows them to answer my question more truthfully. And I think Brooke also hit on another really great point about kind of like diagnosing problems. And I think something to avoid or something to help. Yes. Okay. Something that we're trying to uncover that isn't maybe on paper is the gap between what they're saying and what's actually happening in their business, right? And I think the thing to avoid is to either allow yourself or them to diagnose ahead of time, right? Because oftentimes we want to be, like Prick said, like prescriptive about, oh, I think I already have their solution. I think I already know their problem. Well, sometimes they think they know their problem also. I have a lot of agents coming to me and it's always, hey, like the leads aren't converting. And I'm like, oh, tell me more about like the last time you had a lead come in that didn't convert, right? And then I'll listen to them tell the story about that lead. And what we often find, it's not about that lead at all. It's
mm,
about they never followed up. Or they followed up with the, how's it going? Do you need anything? Right? And it's like, you're not going to let yourself get away with things like that. And now all of a sudden, we're having a conversation about follow up and accountability, which are their real pain points in their problem, not about their lead not converting. Right?
great
Yeah.
point.
I like that. Okay. Now, one thing that I remember hearing from y'all is to not necessarily pre-diagnose the problem. What is the difference for you between pre-diagnosing what you think the solution is going to need to be versus preparing for the call and kind of framing what you think is going to happen? So if we're trying not to pre-frame and pre-assume that we know what's going to fix it, where does that line exist for you? Brooke, how about you? If you are going into this and you think you know what the problem is, but you're trying to maintain that flexibility so that you can ask, how does that look when you show up at the with the like show up with the customer or the client?
Yeah, I mean, Meg, I feel like you kind of nailed it in what you just said. It's like coming in and saying like, "Hey Meg, you're kicking off the call. You've maybe asked some questions about them as a human, a person, ideally avoiding like the weather talk.
Yeah.
And then you're diving into, I think this phrase sounds a little scary to people. It sounded scary to me at first, is in the challenger methodology is to take control. Taking control early can sound something like literally what you just said, Meg, is like, hey, I have done really deep research about your business, your competition. I have gathered some data points, but I really want this to be a conversation because my most successful partners do X. However, I have a lot to learn about you, and um, this is going to be a back and forth conversation. So if anything I'm saying doesn't land, let me know. So I think literally exactly what you just said is a perfect preface to presenting your perspective. And it goes back to if you're talking to an ultimate decision maker, COO, CEO, director of marketing, your time should be valuable to them. And so I ask my sales pro after any call, would they have paid for that? I don't care the amount. Would they have paid you for that call?
Mm.
And if the answer is no, I'm a little bit concerned in terms of their preparation and value they brought to the partner. And now that doesn't mean that they're like, they've come and the partner is never talking, and they're just information dumping or product dumping on them. But it is a true back and forth about opportunities within the client's business. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm dying at the line of like, no, but we want this to be a conversation. So if something that I'm saying is not landing, tell me because I want to make sure I'm not wasting your time.
Mm,
Also, complete and total mic drop on my best performing clients do this. Like,
Mhm.
oh my word, the way in which that would psychologically totally work on most people, props, absolute props. Yulene, how do you feel about this? Like, do you have a similar kind of conversation that you tend to have when you're going into that initial meeting? Is this a balance that you're kind of going like playing it with in your head as you're having the meeting? Like, how does this work for you, within your brain?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Brooke is right on with everything she said. I'm a really visual learner, so I think of it as trying to get on the same path as them, right? So like we're walking together. I think a lot of times in sales, we think of like sitting across the table, right? And like negotiating or something like that. And I really want to be on that path of walking toward the solution with them. The other thing I maintain in terms of flexibility is, everybody wants a close on the call, but I
Mm.
shouldn't be driving that urgency. If we're asking
Mhm.
the right questions and it's the right solution for that partner, they're going to come up with urgency, right? So what's
Like,
going on in their business where we have to action now, right? And so that really and when they're driving the urgency, it makes your job so much easier.
mm.
oh yeah, of course. I mean, nobody wants to feel like they're getting a hard sell or like they're, oh, it's a limited time offer and you got to act now, blah, blah. Like nobody likes that feeling. So I think that is very, very smart is to kind of put the ball in their court of like, listen, I'm ready to go whenever, but I'm not going to be the one pushing you down this sledding hill. Like you tell me when you're ready to go.
Mm.
So I think that's wonderful. Let's see. Okay, we did get one question from Roberto in the chat. What has been your biggest mistake in discovery calls or something you will never do again? I'm loving the line about the weather because you get so sidetracked so quickly with like small talk kind of things that it's really easy to have like an 8-minute conversation and realize we haven't talked about anything. I have no idea what this call was for. Um, but
Ooh.
yeah, I'm curious if there's anything else that y'all would do.
Eileen, you want to go first? You
Yeah,
go
I'll
first.
totally go first. I know exactly what this is, and I've done it more than once. Um, Presenting solutions like within the first 5 minutes, right?
Ooh.
I think oftentimes, this is what we do day in, day out for hours and hours. Like we may know the solution ahead of time. Um, And if I'm pressed for time because I've got another call to jump into or, got numbers to hit, like I'll just be like, great, this product is the one for you, right? And whether or not they purchase on that call, it's never a great experience for them afterward, right? Because I never got to the why of why they need that product. And that's what I would never do again, is solutioning too early before we've actually gotten them to like feel their pain, right? And I think
Mhm.
that's really important.
That is so good. And I see it so often of like people just being so hungry to talk about their product, and it's not even the right fit or the right person, the right time, all of those things. I hit on this one before, so but I'm gonna give you something different. Is like the what's keeping you up at night? What's top of mind? Bury 'em, leave it. It tells me you're not informed or have done the right preparation. Or like, what are you hoping to talk through today? It's like, wait, you should do that. I'm gonna go with there's some key moments that can be missed in discovery. Like, let's say I'm on a call with Meg. Meg's CEO, of course, obviously, and we're
Naturally.
we're kicking off. And again, I see this mistake often talking about like the weather, where it's like a missed window of opportunity. Instead of saying, Meg, what's that paper chain behind you? She might
Oh,
tell
my
me
depression
something.
crash.
She might say something so like unique to her that I can deeply understand. Whereas, and then later in our partnership, maybe I send her a handwritten note with a paper chain, something inside of it. That those sales pros that do things like that and ask questions that are, again, going back to who is this person holistically? How can I make this a beautiful experience? And then asking obviously the business questions. But I think that's a big one that people miss is the that that aspect of like just talk about the weather because I'm nervous and all the things instead of just being like, what's going on behind you? I've had some amazing experiences. I've seen sales pros like kids' artwork. You can't see it right now because of what I've going on, but in the background. And one of my sales pros asked about, they had it taped up on the wall and it looked kind of a little janky. And he went on a tangent about his daughter and her artwork. And she ended up sending him like a rotating picture frame for her artwork. And
At the front door.
yeah, and so it just turned into something really amazing and showed that she is there to create an experience that's just different and a little bit better because she asked the right questions. So Roberto, I hope that answered your question.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's taking something that could be transactional and you're making it a relationship. You're because I mean, think about it. Like it's always it's always cheaper to get repeat business than there is to find new customers. So I
Sure.
think that that is a wonderful solution. I mean, my dad's a salesman. I grew up hearing all of this at the dinner table every night, and it's absolutely really cool to me to see how the techniques have progressed, how it's not quite the same business. Granted, he was in a completely different industry, but I think it is really interesting to see where some of the through lines are.
Mm.
Um, okay, a lot of people have questions about specific situations, so we're not going to go into the specifics right now. I do have a couple other questions, and then Benita will get to your question as well. Let's talk about some of the questions you can ask that actually work. Things that you have used or questions that you have asked in calls that have really helped to either convert or at least move the needle towards that conversion. Brooke, you
Absolutely.
look really
I
nervous.
I can get started and it's not even a question. A lot of times what I try to get from the partner, and like Brooke said earlier, key to a great sales call that they're speaking more than you are, is walk me through the last time this happened.
So
And
good.
something else I kind of want to point out is there's so much for you to pay attention to beyond the surface layer of the words,
Mm.
right? Because there's their eye contact, it's their body language, right? And the goal of a good sales call in a lot of ways, and I'm curious to hear if you agree with this, Brooke, but is to make them a little uncomfortable because
Mm.
we're uncovering these things that are causing them pain in their business. But there is a big difference between making them a little uncomfortable because we're trying to problem solve and them being disinterested, right? And so kind of like walking that fine line as well and
Yeah.
trying to move things along when they're uninterested versus when they maybe get a little vague or a little too general. And that's when you're like, ooh, now I need specifics, right? Are they being
Mm.
vague and general here because they really don't know what's going on in their business? Right? Like they think they know the answers, but they don't have them. Now we can ask those layering questions to figure it out together.
That's so good. That is so good. Walk me through the last time. Because that you're taking them through something that was painful. And I think that discomfort is te we frame it in rentals as tension,
Hmm.
and it's keeping that balance of tension. I'll give you the few questions that to me stand out, and then a way to build some tension, if that's okay, Meg, is my team always laughs at this one. It's like my go-to question is just like, what else? And pausing. And like,
Pausing is key.
that's what I was gonna say, is there's so many times in calls where I hear the client, the partner, we call them partners, and they're talking and immediately we're jumping in. And just like sit for a second, like the power of silence for you to gather your thoughts and to maintain that tension is really, really important. I also think where I said like no ego amigo is like, what did you mean by fill in the blank? Because so often we skim past things that actually could be the golden ticket to the information you don't have. The other one is how is that impacting your team? So like I'm trying to elicit some feeling there. I want them to feel something that maybe they haven't considered in a while. So maybe it's something about efficiency in their business. And I want them to be thinking about like the time it potentially takes, like that their team could be doing something to move their business forward. And then in terms of the tension, something I'm actively working on with my team right now, I think in the virtual world, we've all gotten really good at like, what does active listening mean virtually? And it's like exactly what Meg's doing right now. Like, so good. And I know she's listening to me, which is thank you. She's smiling, she's nodding. She oftentimes like she's been agreeing, thankfully, in this call. But in a sales position, how you can create a little bit of tension is instead being like,
Hmm,
really?
that's
Hmm.
so odd.
Yeah, that's surprising. And then they're like, wait, why is that surprising? What are other people doing? And it's like that immediate FOMO of, wait, do you have a better idea? I need to know. So there's
And
a
now you have an
way,
engaged question.
yes, there's a way for you to actively listen, but maintain tension. I see sales pros so often with partners be like, yes, totally. That's awesome. Great call out. Or they're just affirming everything about their business. But ultimately, in sales, our job is to identify a gap in their business and lead to our solution. So, in active listening, ensuring that you maintain some tension about that gap.
I like it because what you're describing is you're trying to put them back in the moment mentally of encountering these pain points. And so you want the not necessarily the like the emotion of it, like the, pressure and this isn't working and all the negative stuff, but you want them to remember what that felt like while also being clear-headed enough to make decisions about it later on. So I think that that makes a ton of sense to be like, hey, walk me through this, because that way they are telling a story. They're walking you through the what it felt like from their perspective. And then while they're doing that, you can then cross-reference of like, okay, I knew that's new, that's a new point that we have to make sure we like note in my notes of like we got to touch on this, blah blah blah. So I think that's really wonderful. Yuling, how do you use these? Do you utilize kind of a similar format?
Yeah, absolutely. And to Brooke's point, we hear people all the time forgetting to pause. And I think sometimes it's either we're not really listening, right? Which is a struggle. But also sometimes it's just us trying to follow that script, right? And like move to the next
Mhm.
question. So doubling down on the pause, it's so important. I'm a big believer in the pen and pencil or pen and paper also, so that you're like writing and you're active and your brain's engaging in the right way. Brooke, I love the question you're asking about how it impacts your team.
Yeah.
At the strategic level here, on our side of the business, we're often dealing with big brokers that are responsible for essentially feeding their teams. And it's getting to that underlying emotion that you were talking about, right? And their responsibility there to their team to make a good decision, make the right decision, move forward with their business in the most productive and profitable way, really. Right. So I really like that. I think it definitely gets to the core of the emotional piece.
Yeah, I think to build off of that a little bit, just came to mind is if I were to compare it to something like imagine Yulene and I were out to dinner and we didn't know each other very well. I'm kind of going back to the sports analogy, so sorry. It's top of mind with World Cup. The most impactful questions are second level and third level questions always when I'm coaching. It's typically never the first question asked. I'm always like here cheering on my team watching a recording when I hear them ask a second and third question. So let's say Yulene and I sit down and she's like, "Hey, do you like football, like American NFL football?" And I, of course, would answer, "Yes, I am a diehard Cincinnati Bengals fan."
Okay.
Um, imagine if Yulene's response was, "Do you like golf?" Like,
Shut down and pivot, dear Lord.
yeah, like why didn't you ask me why I like the Bengals? Why didn't you ask if I'm from Cincinnati? Why didn't you ask about Joe Burrow, or anything, right? So I think that's resonated with my team often about you asked this earlier about a script of questions, Meg. When you have a script of questions, you have to know that it needs to be fluid and leave space for the second and third level questions Because if you stick to that script and you go straight to, do you like golf? You're missing so much information. So second and third level are by far the most impactful.
I like this. Okay, we've got some good questions coming into the chat, so I'm going to pull in some of those as we can. Let's see. Okay, a lot of these people want to know how to build trust if someone is skeptical or guarded. Vanita also asked, if you're having a sales conversation with a prospect, might be legally restricted from sharing key details with you. So let's talk about what happens if the call is maybe not as simple as you would think, if it requires a little bit more hand holding. How do you build that trust? How do you try and soften the exterior of that call? Yulene, you want to start us?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, there's a lot of parts to that. So if I miss one, feel free to call me out, Meg. I think that sometimes we overcomplicate trust. And I think it's maybe more about that people want to be understood, right? Like it's unlikely that somebody meeting me on a first call is going to truly trust me. But what I can prove to them is that I can understand them on that
Mm.
first call. And I think that's like a big defining difference in how I frame it in terms of like building that trust with them. Um, and what I would say is that and this is a little off topic, and I apologize, Meg, but all of these skills are very learnable, right? And I think what I love about the examples that Brooke has given, again, in the most recent conversations, like practice this all the time. You're going to understand how it feels to build trust when you're out at a dinner party and someone
Mm.
starts opening up to you because you landed that second and third question, right? And I think that's going to become much more organic in just how you approach everything in your life when you're able to show someone that you really understand them and you care to move to the next step of understanding how you can help them.
Yeah, and I would say too along the way is like it is a bit of an art with what Eulene's saying is like uh you've got to consistently pulse check who you're talking to. I mean, I think about this with my kids. It's really relevant in all, not just sales, but everywhere you are. And just a consistent check-in. If you are on a sales call saying, how's this landing? What stands out most about this data or this presentation? What am I missing here? And then if you're getting those one-word answers or like nothing, it's fine. You could say, and again, the no ego amigo thing of like, it feels like maybe right now this isn't your number one priority. Is there someone else on the team that this would more closely align with? Or like, is there a better time for us to connect on this? So I think there's some also just emotional intelligence. If you are really running into a wall, it might actually not be the right time if you're picking up on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, Meg, I know you were asking about like if there are things that they can't share. I'll kind
Mm.
of bundle this in with what they can't share if they don't want to share, right? And I think I touched on it earlier. It's when they really get vague or they start editing stuff out, you can tell. And I think the key there is to slow down, right? Try to identify which piece of it they're hesitant about. And it's okay to kind of step back and ask them to get hypothetical, right? What do you wish this product did? Or what do you wish was happening in your business? Or if you could create a product that was going to solve your business needs, what would that look like? Right? And where is the gap in what you have today? So I think it's okay sometimes, especially if it's tricky, like we deal in tech, so we deal with a lot of data and things like that. Like I definitely understand that there are kind of lines we can cross and lines we can't cross. But that's really what I do is just take the step back and slow down.
Okay. All right, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I want to try and make sure we get to as many of the questions as possible.
Sure.
And I see those eyes. I tell you, it always goes like this. No one ever believes that it's going to feel like as fast as it does. We say 1 hour and they're like, how
Flew
do we feel?
by.
And I'm like, girl, don't worry, we've got you. Um, okay, let's talk about if a call, we talked a little bit about like, kind of things mistakes you'd never make again, things like that. Would anyone be willing to tell me about a call that went sideways?
I'm
Yeah.
sure I'm sure we both are. I have many. Um, I I would say I would kind of want to like summarize a number of them on in the theme. I would say when I first transitioned into sales out of teaching, I had this perception that like, you know, as teachers do, like I'm going to save the world. I have this mission and I'm going to do it, and people are bought into it. And I have a good heart, which is still true, and I still feel all those things. But I walked into so primarily female-led industry, obviously being a teacher, and I transitioned into quite the opposite in my first sales job. And I was in person, knocking on doors, showing up at any type of establishment, two-man auto shop, all the way up to a very large hospital, anything in between, restaurants, all of that, bars. Um, there were many times where I walked into conversations knowing I had a solution for them, like a way for them to save, a way for them to be more efficient, a way for them to offer better items to their patrons, etc. And it was just like kind of laughable to them. And it threw me off. Like, and I think that that will happen in sales for sure. There are going to be calls, most calls, like things happen unexpectedly, but that one, those situations threw me off balance and like fight or flight. A little bit of like you either like turtle or you get really defensive and you're like, no, you need to listen. And you kind of get into it with them. There's some friction as opposed to the like natural tension. And I would say in those scenarios is just maintaining your cool, calm, collected, you're confident of like, sounds like now is not right, or sounds like there's someone else on your team that I should speak with. I'm going to send this information over. I know it would benefit you, your business. Um, I'll be back by next week. And then leaving, and I will tell you when I started maintaining that response, those people, when you actually walk the walk and follow through to their prickly response, come around. Like
Mm.
they always come back around when they see that you're willing to stick through it.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, we've talked a little bit, Brooke, especially you, how you moved into sales from a different industry. One of the things that I feel like Rob also agrees with me, our VP of sales says that everyone is in sales, even if you are on the engineering team, because word of mouth is a big deal. Um, how how would you say these skills have traveled, from other industries or to other industries? If somebody is asking you, like, hey, I think I want to go into sales, but I only have a pardon me, I only have a background in lion taming. So what can I do? What would you tell them about kind of some of the it's not transitional, transferable skills that they may have from another area?
Mm. Ultimately, sales is people. And it's literally the same as fifth grade teaching. Like it truly is. I had a set of, say, 26 students, and I needed to know each of them uniquely about what they liked, how they learned best, where they were at, so I could meet them there and take them to the next level. That is the playbook literally to sales. And so lion taming's tough, but also like that is scary and you're going to be fearless coming into sales. And nothing should scare you away. So there's definitely a reframed story there for you. But I would say making sure you have that story tight of your successes, like in people. How have you helped transform people's behavior, most specifically in decision making and taking them to the next level?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree, Brooke. And I would definitely say that the thing we're all selling, no matter what role you're in, is yourself, right?
Yeah.
So really being able to speak to yourself, and I actually came from the education industry also, Brooke, so that's
Oh,
interesting.
did you
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. For-profit world though, not the
Nice.
kind of like save the world kind of perspective. But I think that's important. And I'll just tap on a few other skills I think that will always help you in a role, and things that I look at in hiring is your own internal drive, right?
Mm,
And your ability to like continue learning, growing, and evolving in your craft. I think Brooke and I are very similar in that we always want to be better at what we do, right? And so that requires like work. Something I really value about Zillow is that I can put that work in during my work hours, right? Like I can spend the time, block my calendar to do professional development and become a better version of myself in leadership.
That's so beautiful.
Love that. Yeah. That was actually dovetails really nicely with like two different questions we were asked in the chat that I didn't think we were going to have time to get to. So thank you, Yulene, for that. No, I'm loving all these responses. Okay. In the last couple minutes we have, I do want to ask like kind of some advice to for us to go on. If someone has never thought of themselves as a skilled interviewer or somebody who's good at, kind of asking these questions, where should they start?
Sorry, you mean going into an interview, like they are interviewing for a role?
I would say if they're, I wouldn't say interviewing for a role. I would say like if somebody is hoping to have a career in sales, but they don't necessarily feel like they are very strong at asking people questions or interviewing the person that they're paired with. That's what I mean, I think.
That's a good question. I would say this is super simple. Is like 10% more. And what I mean by that is like in your everyday life, going to the grocery store, literally any interaction. And when we talked about second and third level questions, instead of saying to the individual that's checking out, like, hey, how are ya? And you're expecting good, okay, great, bye. Asking like, oh my gosh, I love those earrings. Where did you get them? Or your hair's pink. That is awesome. Has it like I wish I could pull that off and see where the conversation goes. That is again, that's sales, like the paper chain. You're noticing something and taking it a level deeper. That's what I would challenge you to test out. And if that makes you like, oh, then it might not be for you. And that is a-okay, by the way. Like it doesn't have to be for everyone, but you got to get really comfortable with those skills for sales to be something that you love.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the advice I would give is, yeah, get comfortable being uncomfortable because you will be all the time. And that's okay. That's part of the business, you know? And then the other thing I would say is one step at a time, right? You
Mm.
might need a script at the beginning. Brooke and I have talked a lot about storytelling in our roles. Like, it's okay, just follow a script, right? In an interview, often it's STAR method, right? And it's okay, just stick to that. Remember the four things and just check them off your fingers as you're speaking. But I think it's good to start with a structure, and then as you gain confidence in that structure, that's when you gotta,
Mm.
adapt and get to be a little bit more what's the right word? Improvisational in how we handle things.
Practice, y'all. Practice, 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 practice. I mean, most
Yeah.
of what I do is also sales. It is, trying to pull out the best nuggets about Zillow or whoever the presenting company is. So even if you think that you're not in sales, you probably are in sales. No matter, you probably
So
have those
true.
sales skills. You just don't recognize them because you're not being paid for being in sales. So I
So
think that,
true.
yeah, very, very important. Okay, we've got 2 minutes left. I want to make sure we take time here to say a giant thank you. Thank you, Yulene, and thank you so much, Brooke, for taking time out of your day to spend with us. This has been really, really wonderful. I always love working with the Zillow team. Before I let you go, if people only remember one thing from today's session, what do you want that one thing they take with them to be? Now, while you think about that, I'm going to tell the rest of our audience members to thank you so, so much for spending time with us today. It has been wonderful to see all of your friendly faces in the chat. I've been loving all of the activity in the chat as well. So thank you all so, so much, not just for showing up, but for showing up and participating. It's what brings these events to life and makes them so much more impactful. So thank you to all of you. All right, Brooke, how about you? What is one thing that you want people to take with them from today's event?
Yes, this is the best advice I've received in terms of preparing for an interview or big high stakes conversations. Is ask yourself and be ready to execute on how do I want to make this person feel going into an interview? So often we walk away from interviews and it's like, okay, and it's kind of forgettable. Be engaged. How do you want to make them feel? Tell the story. And I think when you come from that place, just really, really good things will come from it. Yulene?
I love that, Brooke, because in like your personal life too, that's such a great way to operate.
Yeah.
I would say be genuinely curious. And at work, with new careers on LinkedIn or in your personal life, that's what I want you to remember. Be genuinely curious.
Love.
I like that. I think it's very palpable when you're talking to somebody that's excited about something or has that spark of curiosity. So I'm a big believer. Follow the curiosity because it will lead you to the things that interest you most. So I love this. All right, y'all. I want to say a massive thank you again to the Zillow team. If anything that we have said today about Zillow has piqued your interest, I very much encourage you to take a look at their company page. We're going to share links for all of this. We'll also email you after today's event as well. So please, please, please make sure that you check out Zillow's company page. If you are interested in them, there's going to be a big pink button at the top of their company page on powertofly.com that says follow. Smashing the pink follow button does some things for you, but basically what it does is it lets Power to Fly tell Zillow that you're interested in working with them even before you fill out an application. It also allows us to tell, or sorry, it also allows us to keep Zillow on your mind because we will tell you when they post new roles or have new events coming up like this. So work smarter, not harder. Let us take some of the weight off of you in your job search. For today, I hope that y'all have taken some great informational points from today's session. I certainly have. I hope y'all go out and have the day y'all voted for, and I hope that you will be back here to see us again sooner rather